Since its founding in October 1987, the Washington Company's Montana Rail Link has plied the rails laid down by the Northern Pacific in the Big Sky country of Montana. It has served as a bridge line for the Burlington Northern, now BNSF, between Jones Junction, Montana and Sandpoint, Idaho. In addition to handling mainline freight, it has serviced over 150 local customers, utilizing several branch lines. Both vintage and modern EMD locomotives sporting the familiar black and blue paint scheme with the white Washington Company's W or the red ball logo have become an iconic piece of the American West, roaming the 900-plus miles of MRL track. The main line is actually owned by BNSF, and traffic has boomed over the past few decades thanks to unit coal and grain trains, crude oil, intermodal, and numerous manifest trains heading to and from the Pacific Northwest. In January 2022, news of the MRL reaching an agreement with BNSF to end the lease brought many rail fans out to Montana to see their beloved regional railroad one last time, not knowing exactly when the end would come. We made several trips in 2022 and early 2023 to capture some of the hot spots at various times of the year, and are proud to present this 4-part series showcasing Montana Rail Link in quite likely its last years of operation. Part 1 begins in Missoula, and we follow MRL's gas local over the 4th and 10th subdivisions to Pipeline. Then we turn east over the former Northern Pacific's racetrack to Garrison. Part 2 continues from Garrison as trains climb to the Continental Divide over Mullen Pass, then drop down to Montana's capital city of Helena. In Part 3, we continue east over Winston Hill and through Lombard Canyon to Logan. We will then follow the Logan Local west through the magnificent Jefferson River Canyon to Whitehall, and watch a ballast train load at MRL's Pipestone Quarry. And in Part 4, we continue from Logan to Livingston over Bozeman Pass, then follow the Yellowstone River east to MRL's vast yard at Laurel. Join us now as we bid a fond farewell to the MRL. In 2011, we set out to produce a pair of programs showcasing MRL's main line between Jones Junction and Sandpoint. The goal was to present what you would see if you were trackside. Since about 80% of the trains were BNSF, although operated by MRL crews, it felt more like a BNSF program with MRL helpers and a local or two thrown in. This time, our goal was to showcase anything wearing blue paint, to focus on their system-wide manifest trains, locals, and even work trains, in addition to their helper districts of Mullen Pass and Bozeman Pass. To that, we believe we can safely say, mission accomplished. BNSF trains still appear in the show, but it is the amazing fleet of MRL power that is front and center. MRL's Missoula Yard is the hub for all of our coverage today. We will head west following the gas local and then turn east for Garrison. Located at milepost 119.3, this is the division point between the 3rd and 4th subdivisions and a crew change point for trains between Spokane and Helena. Heading west on the 4th sub, trains pass through Smet, the eastern junction with the 10th sub over Evaro Hill. The line follows the course of the Clark Fork River beginning near Frenchtown, and we will visit Lothrop, Sear, Superior, St. Regis, and Paradise, where the 10th sub again joins the railroad. From here, we will continue west through Plains and Eddy before arriving at the ConocoPhillips fuel facility known as Pipeline, located at milepost 29.3, just east of Thompson Falls. The gas local is the only MRL train found out here, so we won't be traveling any further west. Returning east, we will take the 10th subdivision, which follows the Flathead River through Perma and Dixon before setting a new course through the Jocko River Valley at Rivoli and Arley. The most difficult portion of the railroad is the 2.2% climb over Evaro Hill and dropping down the equally steep east side to Smet. With the route of the gas local complete, we will turn east on MRL's 3rd subdivision through Bonner, the spur of McQuarrie, Bearmouth, Drummond, Jens, and Gold Creek before arriving at our destination of Garrison, a junction with BNSF's Copper City subdivision to Butte. As always, there is a lot to cover, so let's get started now. The story of the Montana Rail Link begins right here in Missoula, where a young Dennis Washington graduated high school and went into the construction business. Today, the Washington Companies consists of several subsidiaries in construction, mining, machinery, and transportation, to name a few. Their corporate headquarters on Reserve Street also include offices and a dispatching center for the entire MRL system, consisting of 937 miles of track between Huntley, Montana, and Sandpoint, Idaho. Missoula Yard is located at the eastern end of MRL's 4th subdivision, and aside from Laurel, is one of the busiest yards on the railroad. We made a point on our first visit to begin shooting this series in February of 2022 to grab roster shots of anything wearing MRL blue. Well, almost anything. This 1909 Buffalo Springfield steamroller is on display thanks to the Washington Companies. And nearby is the old Northern Pacific 1356, a 10-wheeler built in 1902 by Burnham, Williams & Company, which would eventually become part of Baldwin Locomotive Works. It originally powered the North Coast Limited between here and Spokane, Washington. The engine racked up over 1 million miles in its service and made its last run in 1954, taking a train over Evaro Hill. It was saved from the scrapper's torch and put on display right here on November 10, 1955. Another well-preserved piece of history is the 3-story Northern Pacific Station. Built in 1901 out of bricks from Northern Pacific's abandoned Olympian Hotel in Tacoma, Washington, the depot saw passenger service until 1971. Today, this building stands as a symbol of the important role the railroad has played from Missoula's beginnings to this very day. When the Northern Pacific first arrived in 1883, Missoula became the headquarters for the railroad's vast Rocky Mountain Division, and remained so during the Northern Pacific era. When Burlington Northern came to be in 1970, division headquarters were moved from Missoula to Billings. It was the creation of the MRL that finally brought the headquarters back to Missoula. Montana Rail Link serves over 150 customers in Montana. One of them is the Yellowstone Pipeline, carrying petroleum products west from refineries in Billings to Spokane and Moses Lake, Washington. The pipeline ran the entire distance until 1995, when Indian tribes opted not to renew the pipeline's lease for the right-of-way through 21 miles of the Flathead Indian Reservation located just north of Missoula. Over 2.5 million gallons of fuel per day flow through the pipeline, and this would create a major service disruption for customers in the Pacific Northwest. To solve the problem, Montana Rail Link started running a train that would bridge the gap in the pipeline. In an agreement between ConocoPhillips and the railroad, the Gas Local was born. Originally, the train ran out of Helena to a transfer station near Thompson Falls until this terminal in Missoula opened in 1998. 3 types of fuel are carried by the pipeline: diesel, aviation fuel, and gasoline. The trains usually consist of 20 cars, which are loaded at the Missoula terminal. An FRA-required idler car is placed between the locomotives and the tanks. Currently, the Gas Local runs twice per day, 7 days per week, usually departing Missoula at 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. respectively. The 4 a.m. train is known as the day gas, while the 4 p.m. train is referred to as the night gas. Over at the fuel racks, power for the Gas Local gets serviced in between runs. It is the usual power of EMD SD70 Aces, which today consist of the 4406 and 4408. In the distance, another couple of Aces are sitting near the turntable. They will power tomorrow's system-wide manifest train between Missoula and Laurel, known as the ML. We will catch up with that train later on. In the meantime, the power for the night gas is ready to go, and a crew takes the units to tonight's waiting cars. Near to Smet, a Fred flashes from an eastbound manifest which has just come off the 10th subdivision and patiently waits to enter the busy yard at Missoula. It is the middle of January 2023, and it is already getting dark as the night gas makes a 4:30 departure on its westbound run to Pipeline and back. Smet is milepost 125.9 on MRL's 4th subdivision. This is a junction with the 10th sub, which splits off to the north before joining the 4th sub again at Paradise. The Missoula West dispatcher can send trains either direction. The 10th sub is shorter, but comes with a steeper grade of 2.2% over Evaro Hill. In this scene from July, the night gas is about to take the 10th sub. And visiting to Smet in February of 2022, the night gas is being routed over the 4th sub due to a lot of eastbound traffic on the 10th. This line is longer, although it follows the easy course of the Clark Fork River with no significant grade. MRL 4408 West crosses over from the north to the south track at De Smet. Let's follow the gas local west along the 4th subdivision to Pipeline, then return via the 10th sub to Missoula. Near Frenchtown, the night gas rounds a high-speed curve as it heads for the icy banks of the Clark Fork River. Here is the same scene in May with a much shorter train. When the Missoula West dispatcher tells train crews they are taking the river route, this is what they mean. The Clark Fork leads the railroad for over 200 miles through a wild, lonely, and mostly uninhabited country. When you think of the 4th sub, scenes like this come to mind as the night gas heads downstream toward Lothrop on a cool winter afternoon. At milepost 150.8, Lothrop is an 8,987-foot siding with a stub track. There are 6 tunnels on the 4th subdivision. This one is the Philemon Tunnel, number 5.5. It has a short bore of 305 feet. BNSF 6071 East blows for Sawmill Gulch Road and enters the tunnel. The special cars on the head end of this train are for hauling Boeing 737 fuselages. When loaded, they look like this. These birds are in transit between Wichita, Kansas and Renton, Washington, where they will undergo final assembly at the Boeing plant and take to the skies. Our short night gas heads west with loads of 87 octane. At Sear, trains run through a forest of pine and the rural crossing of Fish Creek Road. A good number of coal trains traverse the MRL, like this empty eastbound that activates the crossing gates for Fish Creek Road. The coal train met the night gas at Lothrop, which now continues west for Superior. We continue following the Clark Fork River west through the Bitterroot Mountains and arrive at Superior. It was founded in 1869, and a post office was established in 1871 after a gold strike brought people in. Its founders named it after their hometown of Superior, Wisconsin. The night gas slowly heads through the 8,280-foot siding, where it will meet another eastbound empty coal train. Taking advantage of the longer summer days, we capture the night gas as it comes into St. Regis. The train crosses the Clark Fork at Paradise. Classic Northern Pacific cantilevers with searchlights guard the east switch of Plains. They also guard the west switch of the 11,360-foot siding. The Flathead River empties into the Clark Fork at Paradise, giving trains a bigger river to run along. snow clings to the Bitterroots high above the valley at station sign Eddy, named for the mountain peak to the south. On this morning in February of 2022, the day gas is working at Pipeline, just under 10 miles to the east. In the meantime, the Missoula West dispatcher has trains to run and has set up a meet between two BNSF coal trains. BNSF 7706 West arrives first and takes the 11,227-foot siding. This train was loaded in Wyoming's Powder River Basin and is bound for the major export terminal of Roberts Bank, BC. With the train in the hole, it isn't long before a clear block shows at East Eddy for BNSF 3917, taking empty coal buckets back to the PRB. On our July visit in 2022, we caught the night gas passing the spur track for the Thompson River Lumber Company sawmill just east of Thompson Falls. The train is just minutes from its destination of Pipeline. Winter in Montana means days that are short and cold. Yet in those brief days, there are moments of true beauty, like sunrise over the Mission Mountains as we head out to intercept the day gas working at Pipeline. The ConocoPhillips transfer facility known as Pipeline is located at milepost 29.3 on the 4th Subdivision east of Thompson Falls. The terminal consists of two parallel tracks, each with a capacity of 15 cars. The day gas has left their loaded cars in a siding on the Pipeline spur track and now retrieves the empties for Missoula. After grabbing the first set of 15, the train backs to a hook with the second set. All hazmat cars contain placards identifying their contents. These read 1993 for diesel fuel. After making a joint with the second set of empties, the engineer gives the train a little stretch. The conductor laces up the airline, knocks off the handbrakes, and the big aces pull the empties from the terminal. With the conductor writing the point, the loads are carefully backed to the terminal, reversing the process. These placards read 1203 for gasoline. Each one of these tanks holds enough fuel to fill your average car over 2,000 times. Paying attention to the placards, we can see that the tanks closest to the locomotives contain diesel. As the crew carefully spots the first cut, we take to the air to give you a better view of the facility. This is where fuels are pumped back into the Yellowstone pipeline. We are momentarily distracted by an eastbound stack train led by BNSF 6615. The engines may be orange, but keep in mind they are operated by MRL crews between Spokane, Washington and Laurel, Montana. The intermodal stacks continue east for the crew change point at Missoula, while the day gas continues its work. With the loaded tanks all spotted at Pipeline, the engines and their idler car head west to pick up the empties for the return trip to Missoula. Since we are in the area, let's head over to Thompson Falls, where another classic cantilever signal bridge still guards the east switch, adorned with searchlights. These were the new signals that replaced the semaphores decades ago, now soon to be replaced by the ubiquitous LED variety. To shoot videos like this is to document living history. Everything changes. The day gas returns east along the Clark Fork River, bound for the 10th subdivision at Paradise. Here is the same scene recorded in May of 2022. This whole area was once under the giant Lake Missoula, which backed up behind an ice dam at Lake Pend Oreille, in what is now the Idaho Panhandle. After finding a route over Bozeman Pass and the Continental Divide at Mullen Pass, Northern Pacific surveyors in 1853-54 found this country along the Clark Fork the most difficult to navigate, thanks to thick forest undergrowth and a route constantly blocked by fallen timber. Though now tamed by road and rail, the country retains its rugged beauty, providing a perfect setting for trains to run through, even if the sun doesn't always shine when you want it to. Twilight lingers on an evening in July, while the night gas returns east at Plains at 9:30 p.m. The next morning, we catch the day gas rolling between Plains and Paradise. Paradise is an old Northern Pacific division point established when the railroad was completed through here in 1883. To the west was the Idaho Division, through Sandpoint, Spokane, Pasco, and as far west as Yakima, Washington. To the east, the Rocky Mountain Division to Livingston. This was where railroaders set their watches between Pacific and Mountain Time, depending on which division they would be operating over. The familiar brick yard office remains at 460 Railroad Avenue in the small hamlet along Montana Highway 200, with a small rail yard out back. In earlier years, the Paradise local worked out of here, servicing Tricon Timber in nearby St. Regis, the Thompson River Lumber Company, and running up the Polson branch from Dixon. In this scene from January 2011, the local heads for St. Regis behind GP9 number 113. The Paradise Local ran until October 2015, when their work was handed off to the gas local. One of the nails in its coffin would be added just a few months after this scene was recorded, when washouts from spring flooding closed the Polson branch north of Dixon. Paradise is a junction with the 10th Subdivision, which follows the Flathead River east to Dixon, then into the Jocko Valley and over Evaro Hill to Smet. This is dark territory, and trains must obtain a track warrant from the dispatcher over the radio.
Thumbs West dispatcher, MRL 4406 East, track warrant, when you're ready.
MRL 4406 East, ready to copy at Paradise, over.
Hey, let's make this a mandatory directive. Fox track warrant number 1147-1147 to the MRL Montana Rail Link 4406-4406 East EST. Fox 2 TWO, proceed from CTC Paradise, PRADISC, to MP Maples 3030 on the 10th Subdivision Main MAIN. Track 1147, box number 2.
Repeat mandatory directive, Xbox track warrant number 1147-1147 to the MRL Montana Rail Link 4406-4406 ECAST. Xbox 2 TWO, proceed from CTC Paradise, PRADISC to MP Maples 33 on 10th 1 outside main track warrant 1147 as 1 box front 2, over.
Track 1147, box 2, OK, times 10:06:1006. February 25/2022, the dispatcher's LKP.
Track 1147, 1 box mark 2, show K time 10:06:1006, date February 25/2022, dispatcher's LKP, over.
That is all correct there.
Roger, all correct, thanks.
The 10th Subdivision between Paradise and Dixon is one of the most scenic stretches of track on the entire MRL, as trains follow the Flathead River. In this scene from July, the night gas heads west between Perma and Paradise, near the old Northern Pacific station of Knowles. Moving the calendar back about 6 months reveals a partially frozen Flathead River after a cold snap sent temperatures down below zero. This through-truss bridge takes the railroad to the south bank of the river, where many great photo opportunities await. This BNSF grain train got authority as far east as Dixon. After the day gas informed the dispatcher they were clear of milepost 36, just a little east of there. The Flathead River Valley provided the Northern Pacific with an easy route through the mountains east of Paradise. After crossing the Flathead River Bridge, the railroad takes a northeast heading toward Perma. In one of our favorite scenes from the 10th sub, MRL 4408 leads a night gas west in May of 2022. Railroads may come and go, but scenes like this remain. Whoever homesteaded on the far side of the river knew a good view when he saw one. The small town of Paradise may be 15 miles to the west, but to the builder of that house, it was right here. It may be a little cold in the winter, but this is Montana, and there is no place quite like it on Earth. The eastbound day gas completes this scene near Perma. By May, the ice is long gone from the river, and it looks like the jointed rail is not long for this piece of the 10th subdivision, at least. Here is another view of the night gas from the same spot at McDonald. And yet another from the air, as the night gas passes the location of Northern Pacific's former sighting of McDonald at milepost 44.6. This section of track is sometimes referred to as the Squiggles, as it hugs the cliffs along the river bank. Dixon is milepost 37.8, and a siding of a modest 4,489 feet, which is the longest remaining siding on the 10th sub. A station house once stood to the left of the rails just before the milepost. It would have completely blocked our view of the approaching MRL 4406 East. Dixon is the only siding with signals on the 10th sub. They have been up since 2019 and are the only sign of modernization on the old original Northern Pacific Main Line. Of course, there are the dragging equipment detectors. We are standing next to one to film the day gas rounding a curve east of Dixon. The detector gives us a report over the road channel.
MRL detector, milepost 33.7. No defects. Repeat, no defects. Total axle 116. Temperature 42 degrees out.
After rolling through the Jocko Valley, the grade begins to the summit of Evaro Hill. This winter scene was recorded in January of 2023 as the locals' regular power, MRL 4408 and 4406, lead the empty gas cans up the western side of Evaro Hill. This scene is from July, with the majestic Mission Mountains for a backdrop and the same power on the point. We couldn't resist shooting the same scene in winter. Trains crest the 3,971-foot summit near station sign Evaro at milepost 10.6. This was the original main line for the Northern Pacific between Missoula and Paradise until the St. Regis to Paradise cutoff was completed along the Clark Fork River in 1909. This was the shorter route, although at a cost of a 2.2% mountain grade on each side of the hill, requiring helpers. The night gas climbs the heavy grade to Evaro. One of the most recognizable bridges on the line is the 226-foot tall Marent Trestle. The night gas climbs the east slope of Evaro Hill out of the Clark Fork Valley. The typical 20-car train has a weight of roughly 2,700 tons and does not need a helper to climb the grade. For this reason, it often takes the 10th sub, which is nearly 30 miles shorter than the river route through St. Regis. This train has center beams for Thompson River lumber, since it is right along the way to pipeline. For several days in July, one of MRL's heritage units was on the point of the night gas, an engine we'll see plenty more of in future programs. It pulls the grade along the grassy slopes on a hot and dry afternoon, with a temperature near the 100-degree mark. Photographer Christian Schultz captured this footage and got a little more than he was expecting when smoke began rising above the tank cars as the train started through the horseshoe. He quickly called the fire in as it rapidly grew on the hillside above the grade. The night gas was moved safely away from the growing conflagration and inspected, while fire crews began battling the blaze. Later dubbed the Polecat Fire, approximately 345 acres were scorched before crews had it contained. Fortunately, there were no reported injuries or structures damaged, thanks to the quick action taken by the photographer and the fire crews. The following evening, the night gas is seen passing the big black spot left by the Polecat Fire as it climbs the heavy grade. We waited for the train at the Marent Trestle. At 797 feet in length and rising 226 feet over Marent Gulch. This was one of the highest railroad bridges in America when it was built by the Northern Pacific. The first bridge was a rickety wood structure. What it lacked in strength, it made up for in pucker. It was replaced soon afterward with this reinforced steel bridge, which has stood the test of time. The day gas drops down through the burned area. After completing its run over the 10th sub, the day gas once again rolls through to Smet as the crew nears the end of their workday. Back in CTC territory, the crew gives back their track warrant.
MRL District 1 dispatch transfer.
Dispatcher MRL 4406 East, give me back track warrant 1018, mile 32, CTC to Smet, 10th sub main, switches are normal to the rear at this time.
MRL 4406 East, reporting clear on track warrant 1018 between milepost 32 and CTC to Smet. All on the 10th sub main track, all switches normal at 1253 1253.
1253 1253 on warrant 1018, over.
All correct, have a good afternoon.
All correct, all right, thanks. Same to you. Okay, to get day gas out.
A nighttime visit to Missoula Yard reveals the LM train arriving from Laurel at 10:38 p.m. We will be seeing a lot more of the LM and its eastbound counterpart, the ML, in the miles ahead. Tonight, the plan was for the Missoula-Laurel train to be called for 4:30 a.m., but that didn't happen. Anticipating the train's departure, we spent the night and most of the following day at the yard. After sunrise, BNSF 4046 leads a westbound oil train into Missoula Yard. An eastbound empty coal train waits patiently for a light. BNSF trains make up 90% of the freight moved over MRL rails, with unit trains like these oil cans, as well as coal, grain, various manifest and stack trains. This is also an alternate route when BNSF's High Line in northern Montana has service disruptions. Two buffer cars mark where the manned helpers were added to get this train over Mullen Pass earlier this morning. With the oil train clear, BNSF 3796 starts the empty coal train east. Besides passing trains, there was an air show going on in Missoula, and we found the B-25J made in the shade a pleasant distraction. There was a B-17 Flying Fortress as well, but it managed to elude the camera crew. Finally, at 2 p.m., we get what we are waiting for. Train MMIS LAU gets permission to depart Missoula Yard and head east. This train is a long one today. It is powered by SD70 Aces number 4305, Heritage Unit 4404, and because of the extra tonnage, an additional SD40-2XR number 264. Besides the extra engine, This ML train will also be taking on helpers at Garrison for the eastward climb over the Continental Divide at Mullen Pass. Before heading east, let's return to the nighttime scene of the beautifully illuminated depot, this time with a 3-story tall Christmas tree. It's 7 a.m. on the 18th day of January 2023. Another Missoula to Laurel manifest train has permission to depart the yard and pulls to the east switch. They will have to wait for a couple of westbounds before entering the main line. Trains depart Missoula on the 3rd subdivision, eastbound for Helena. The Bonner Local comes out of Missoula in the afternoon 3 days per week. MRL's only GP40, number 500, approaches running long hood forward. It was originally a Western Pacific unit built in 1971. The train enters a spur track off the siding at Bonner. From an aerial perspective, the local enters a site of the Bonner Mill, which existed here from 1886 to 2008. Now, the former mill site has begun a new life with a variety of different businesses making a variety of products, everything from wood chips to aluminum trailers. It is said that around 450 people work here, but that number is only half of what it used to be in the heydays of the Bonner Mill. With today's switching duties complete, MRL 500 returns light to Missoula. Another empty coal train heads through Bonner on its return trip to the Powder River Basin behind BNSF 5733. Earlier, we mentioned wood chips. On this springtime afternoon, the Bonner local has picked up 6 wood chip guns along with its other cars. After running around the train at Bonner, the local heads west. Here is a pacing shot of the MRL 500 as it heads east between Bonner and McQuarrie. Traffic on Interstate 90 passed behind the train. At McQuarrie, the Bonner local grabs some tank cars out of storage, while the MRL painted wood chip gons wait patiently in an industrial siding. Let's continue east on MRL's 3rd subdivision. The railroad burrows under Beaver Tail Hill at milepost 94.4 via the Bonita Tunnel number 5. At 896 feet in length, this is the shortest of 4 tunnels encountered between Missoula and Helena. The extra-wide bore accounts for the double-track main line that Northern Pacific once operated between Smet and Garrison in the days before CTC was installed. The second track was removed around 1957. Our heavy ML train races east for Garrison. The faint glow of the morning sun touches a cliff face above the railroad and nearby Interstate 90, which both follow the twisting, winding Clark Fork between Nimrod and the old trading post of Bearmouth, 8 miles west of Drummond. MRL 4310 and 4404 lead today's Missoula-Laurel train east. A blue water tank stands at what was originally called Edwardsville. With the coming of the rails in 1883, the town was renamed Drummond for either a Northern Pacific engineer or a local trapper. No one seems to know for sure, but that is the name for the siding at milepost 70.7. An empty oil train heads east through the small town and past the 10,366-foot siding, a remnant of the once double-track speedway. The track in the foreground is what is left of a branch line that ran 26 miles to Phillipsburg. Owned by the MRL, it has been out of service for decades. Within the hour, another westbound LM train blows for the crossing of Main Street. One of the most photographed locations on the Northern Pacific is the old barn near Jen's, currently hidden behind a tree. Our ML train speeds to Garrison. The former Milwaukee Road grade parallels the main line for a good many miles. Evidence of the former railroad's Pacific extension is not hard to find, like this brick-built substation number 8 at Gold Creek. The Milwaukee Road once boasted 654 miles of electrification in Montana, Idaho, and Washington. Sadly, the Pacific extension was abandoned in 1984, and the railroad is now only a memory. A reminder to us to shoot it now while you can, for tomorrow it will be gone. For our final scene today, we head to Garrison, where both the Northern Pacific and the Milwaukee Road tunneled under a ridge to avoid a sharp bend in the Clark Fork River. Both bores are still visible. Garrison Tunnel number 3 is 1,394 feet in length, the second longest on the third subdivision behind the Mullen Tunnel. Welders have been working on the west switch and have cleared up as the ML train takes a siding to do its work this morning. The train is led by MRL 4316, one of 4 EMD SD70 Aces that originally hauled iron ore in Australia for BHP. Built in 2005 as BHP 4302, the engine was traded back to EMD and rebuilt by Progress Rail in Tacoma, Washington in 2018. It was delivered to MRL that same year. The 4316 and its 3 Australian siblings, 4317, 18, and 19, have subtle differences to the American models, like the heavily louvered air intake for the dynamic brake fan and a dual 5-chime horn. Take a look as this unit rolls by. After doing its work at Garrison, the ML will be eastbound, again heading for the Continental Divide at Mullen Pass and dropping down the east side to Montana's capital city of Helena. But we will save that story for next time. Until then, thanks for watching.